$150 million off of your books. You can't do it. It's impossible. So it's a flat out blatant lie. I'm not saying, by the way, that Grant doesn't have 5,000, 3,000, 3,500, 4,000 property. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the stretching of those numbers, the fluctuation of those numbers is the problem. And it's a root that's in internet marketing. And it's the reason you don't see PPC as a hot thing, or Google AdWords way back to the Perry Marshall days, right? You don't see that as a hot thing anymore because they took it from us. Because why? When bad people do things, it ruins everything for everybody else that want to grow a business. So the bottom line, the lesson I would learn, Vin, is not Facebook's evil. That's bullshit. What you learn is, how do I do it right so that I don't have to be at the beck and call of those people shutting me down all the time? That's ultimately what it comes down to. That's just my opinion. I'm all for standing up. Okay. I've told you guys many times, one of my idols, Larry Flint, right? Gets shot for a cause, stands up for himself, I love people like that. But when they're real, I'm just sensing a little not so real in this scenario because of what I see, just what I look at. Someone just pointed that out to me, and I looked at about 20 videos, and in 20 videos, I was able to find 40% of the time he randomly changed numbers. That's something that causes us, you and I, so that we can't play this game. So the answer: do things right, Vin. Clean the list, Vin. Make sure you're transparent and honest with your list. Make sure you let them know what you're going to be marketing to them, how often you're going to be marketing to them, what you expect of them. Make sure you got a system in place to make sure that you don't get shit emails on your list. Make sure you're not driving people to one landing page and then putting them on 20 different lists. Simple common sense things, okay, that work in real business, but they're not things that are, they're not things that sell in the internet marketing world. So I'm not here, by the way, to attack you, Vin. You are the person that brought it up, and it's something that's on everybody's mind. And I'm just here to tell you that the answer isn't just like, the government's evil, that Facebook's evil. No, we need government, because otherwise dumb fucking people fuck everything else up, because we're incapable of policing ourselves. Make sense, Vin? Guys, anybody got any guys understand what I'm saying there? Because I just, it's a rant, but I'm going to move on. We're 30 minutes into this. Vin, you hear me? You got it?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It makes. I'm not asking you to believe everything I say, Vin, but you do. It does make sense, correct?
Yes.
All right, buddy. So, anybody else got any questions around the email shit that's going on, or that in relation to what Vin brought up about Grant, etc., and Facebook throttling? Anybody on that before I jump right into the webinar? Anybody here? Anything I could answer or further clarify for you guys? Just put in the chat. I'll give it 30 seconds and we will get rolling. Colette, Dan, Delora, Leah, Linda, Nova, and Shari, and Vaughn, Schlong, Clancy. All right, guys, look, let's get going. Wait, I thought I saw something. Go ahead and share my screen, please.
You should have the pop-up now.
All right, buddy. So, guys and gals, let's jump in. But before we do that, I am going to give me 30 seconds to take a quick piss before we get started. Vin got me all pissed off, and so now I got to piss. But I'll be right back. Give me 30 seconds, stretch, guys, and we will get jamming, okay? I'll be right back.
Also, Vin, kind of just to add to what Dexter said, this is not a rant or anything. I saw an article, I'll see if I can find the link, like during all of this kerfuffle that's going on, of the things like 60 million advertisers on Facebook, only 7 million have left. So in the grand scheme of things, people are crying wolf, whether it's to boost engagement, whether whatever the strategy is. Ultimately, the majority still trust the platform, and the majority still understand how to get ahead on the platform, which ultimately is what Dexter says: do the right thing. Sometimes easier said than done, but always do the right thing. Hope that helps, dude.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yep,
All
yep,
right.
hear you fine.
All right, Ted, you chime in if anybody says anything that I need to stop and pause. If you guys can't hear me, anything like that, I do not have anything up to see. I'm just going to move through today. So, what's today about? It's about you. Um, some of the stuff you've seen, some you haven't. I'd say the second part of today's morning session may be the most valuable shit that I've shared, which is really, 52 of the most important principles in my life that I've gathered over the last couple decades. It's part of a sheet that has 200 plus on it. I'll be sharing with you guys as well. But to get through 52 in an hour and 15 minutes, which I'm going to attempt to do, is going to be tough as fuck. But I've picked what I consider to be the 52 that could potentially be most valuable to you guys. We're going to start with rituals. Why the redundancy? The redundancy is simple. If you guys can't get yourself managed, if you can't begin to build the process of goal setting, or looking at where you're going with the foundation of trust in yourself, which is what I'm going to try to help you guys with, you're ultimately fucked, because you're going to wake up every day and you're just going to prove yourself right, which is you're repeating the same shit that's not working. And we're going to try to break that cycle. So rituals, when I talk about rituals, I'm going to talk specifically as a whole. How do you make a complete and whole day uh, based around rituals, so that ultimately you have freedom with the being anal and strict about how you structure your days. In my opinion, ultimately you're going to get the freedom that all of us want. And then finally, I'm going to talk at the end of this first section about relax, sprint, and disengage. And I'm going to have Leah come in and share with me the model, or the words that she used, which I so ignorantly forgot, but ultimately it's the same thing. And it's the reason that I ended up recently at the Mayo Clinic, um, because I didn't get this last part right, this disengage part. So let's start with rituals throughout history. Creatives, leaders, visionaries. One commonality amongst all of them is some form of structure in their days. It's an overused term. It's something, we're going to talk about it in a minute. I believe the biggest challenge people have with this concept of rituals is that they want to buy into one perfect thing. They want to believe that because Victor or Sigmund did something, that they need to do X because they want to be X. And they think that there's a perfect routine. That's not the case. As a matter of fact, if you're doing it correctly, your days, your rituals, however that ends up looking like, will probably go through between 30 and 50 evolutions before you even come to some form of something that works for you. You meaning, being the most important aspect of the equation. There is no one thing. However, there are some commonalities. So some commonalities I pointed out here. If you look at for instance, like the red articles here, read what she wrote to her husband, right? Stopped at a tavern to read a newspaper, dinner conversation, cards at Juliet's with friends, supper and card games, walk with wife or daughter. So one of the commonalities that you'll see in this book, that I believe this was pulled from, not certain, but I believe there's a book out called Rituals, and I believe it was pulled from that. And very good book, a little bit dry. Most of it's focused on, authors pre 1950, but very, very good book. And there's some other stuff out there around rituals. We all know what it is. But one of the commonalities that most people, that we as entrepreneurs, and I know I'm a victim of it myself, um, uh, you know, by choice, because I don't consciously take, um, full control over it, is the aspect of social, right? We tend to hermit up. We tend to, be around just other entrepreneurs and talk business constantly, and we ignore, the people, places, and things. I mean, that are in our life that are most meaningful. But one commonality you'll find throughout history of those that succeed at a high level in what it is they're doing is they do have some form of daily disengagement and a connection, social in a social environment with those that they love and care about. And we'll get back to that in a little bit. Another thing is, little things you can find in people's rituals. So like Maya, she worked always in a hotel or a motel room. So she drank her coffee, she got in her car, and she would change environments. So for me, being an ADD type person, something that's scattered, I'm the type, and I believe Dolores talked about this, her being very similar, and other people as well. I'm the type, I can go to a coffee shop and I'll get locked in, but the craziness that's going around me, I'll literally wake up hours, and I say wake up because I can lose 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, and then I wake up and I'm like, shit. I mean, I don't, I don't remember seeing anybody, hearing anything, but yet I know it's chaos around me. It's loud. It's, they got music going on. There's been rushes, for lunch or whatever the case is, but I remember nothing. So that particular type of environment stimulates and works for me. So moving around, hotels, uh, co-work places, things like that is very beneficial for some. For others, it's random, right? You do it to shock your system, to get yourself back into play. I know other people that they could never focus in that type of environment. So for Maya, always in a hotel or a motel room, she needed to get outside of her home to be able to be creative. So environment is a big part of a daily ritual that we should look at. If you look at down below with Ludwig, Beethoven, a long, vigorous walk, always carried a pencil and a couple of sheets of music paper in his pocket. One commonality you'll see amongst lots of you see it at two extremes, okay? Um, they use exercise as a creative endeavor. They're not out, like sprinting and where all you can focus on is just the moment and the pain of what's going on. But they're either walking or there's someone like George that goes out and runs 20 miles like we walk to the fridge. They get outside of themselves. Their best ideas come from walking, out in nature and outside of their homes, off of a treadmill. You'll see a constant as that part of the ritual. You'll see up here with Hugo on the upper hand right, he talks about public ice bath on a roof and water left out overnight. Kind of crazy, I mean, this is something that he wrote about, a gentleman, 1850s, and yet you would think ice baths, you got Wim, which is where I, by the way, discovered the whole concept of ice baths or cold showers, Wim Hof, but this is something that's been going on with creatives. You'll see kind of a theme around it for, years, but it doesn't have to be a ice bath. My point is this: if you look at all of these, there's some commonalities, and we're going to talk about the commonalities later, but you'll rarely see, this one equal this one. It just doesn't work that way. And I've spoke before, and I'll repeat it. For years I was a devotee. I was a follower of Tony Robbins. I was enthralled, right? He was the guy above me on the stage in my mind, and I wanted so bad to repeat, that 2 hour quote hour of power, or I should say the 3 hour hour of power. And I just could never get it right. And it wasn't until I gave myself permission that I didn't need to do that, that I need to find something that worked for me. And then I understood that it will change over time with age, with circumstance, etc. And then I gave myself that daily flexibility of having different approaches. It wasn't until that happened that I was able to achieve anything, or recognize the power of this concept of ritual. Because in the end, I know for a fact that when I look backwards, when I'm productive, when I'm effective, it always is when I start my days with momentum, because ultimately that's what this is about. It's about starting your day with wins, creating momentum. Doesn't have to be 3 hours, doesn't have to be an hour. It's about starting your day with momentum. And there's ways to do it. So we're going to talk about that, and it's really divided into four categories, which is what's that building block one, the morning ritual. What's your focused ABC work, and we're going to talk about that later. And then how do you review, report, and plan, and then having a bedtime routine, something I only recently picked up on. Okay, only recently. I for my life, I fought. I didn't want to sleep, and I paid a heavy price for it in many, many ways. But how do you prepare and understand the value of a bedtime routine? Incredibly powerful. So, and what does an ultimate day look like? And then finally, relax, sprint, and disengage. Benjamin Franklin, I rise early almost every morning, and I sit in my chair without any clothes on whatsoever, half an hour or an hour, according to the season, either reading or writing. So, again, it all started way back when, this concept of time management, or, structure to your day with good old Ben. And it, like I said earlier, the single biggest reason to create a morning routine is momentum. Um, it ultimately is that. I can tell you that if and when each one of you begin this process, okay, you begin this process of implementing and structuring your days, you will become addicted, and you will notice significant disadvantages when you don't do it. Why the single biggest reason most fail? They buy into the idea that there is a perfect routine, diet, etc. Okay, and you get frustrated because it's not working for you. You read about something, you try to implement, doesn't work, right? Maybe they recommend a certain type of meditation, just it's not clicking with you. What you don't realize is there's like 20 different apps out there. There's 50 different ways to meditate, right? There's different meanings for meditation, etc. But because you have no flexibility, you want to model someone else's routine, right? You get frustrated, you quit. You have to understand that there is not a perfect, ideal morning routine. There is a perfect, ideal routine for you, okay? But it's up to you to create it. Bruce Lee, adapt what is useful, reject what is useless, and add what is specifically your own. Um, it doesn't matter what we're talking about. It could be goal setting. It could be, you know, uh, this idea of, information management, or some type of tactic for your business. One belief, one principle that I encourage all of you to keep in your head at all times, and a question is, how will this work for me? Why will it not? Why will it not work for me? How can I make it work for me? In the end, it's about pulling from things, and fitting it into your life as you know it. Because if you just try to adapt things because somebody, Dexter or Dan or Joe or Schmo, says to do it, you're going to be stuck in this internet marketing whirlwind that I constantly talk about, where you're chasing your tail. It will not work. Okay, a routine for Leah out in Thailand is going to be entirely different, a different experience than myself, right? Environment where you're at today in your life, what your outcomes are, etc. They're all going to change these rituals that we talk about today. So, what should an ideal morning include? Diet, intellect, fitness, spiritual, grateful, review, and journal. And we're going to talk about those building blocks right now. So, for me, my current, what does it look like? You guys have seen it, many of you, most of you, but it's fairly simple, right? This is my checklist. I roll out of bed, I wake up, I immediately do my Wim Hof breathing. I read for 30 to 60 minutes. You'll see an asterisk there. I firmly believe that is the single most important thing that I do every day. I don't believe, and sometimes I read for 2 hours. If I don't got a heavy schedule, sometimes I'll read for 3 hours. Never less than, a quick 15 minutes if I'm running late or behind, or I got a stuffed schedule. But the bottom line for me, and I like bouncing around. I like having multiple books. I read a lot on Medium. I have some internal blogs. I got some friends' blogs that we share back and forth, etc. But I got my sources. I go to what I consider to be high-end information, and I just consume lots of stuff. I like it's like the fuel that gets my brain firing. Um, I can't recommend it enough. I then sit up in my bed. I do my plantar stretches. Again, we talked about flexibility, creating, changing as your life changes. That's like a top level thing for me because I've recently had an issue with the plantar fasciitis. I never say that right, which is painful as fuck. It inhibits lots of things. So that's got to be a big thing for me. I just do a basic set of things. Doesn't take me long, right? I do a Tabata or a 7-minute morning routine, 4 to 7 minutes. That's it, right? But I promise you, you do a quick ass Tabata where you're, pumping out 20 squats and then doing, 10 seconds and then, doing your push-ups, your sit-ups, and then repeating that for 4 minutes. It gets you going. It gets your minds, guides me. I then immediately move. I dry brush my skin. Something else I recently added. I do a cold shower. I've built that up to 5 minutes over time. And then I meditate. If I'm honest with you guys, the thing that I cut out, and I don't know why, when I cut something out for no reason at all, if I procrastinate, it's always the meditation, and it has to do with, I don't know. I think it has to do with, my ego, my, thinking in my head that this meditation is going to turn me into somebody I don't want to be. It's all bullshit. Okay, I'm just trying to be honest with you guys and say that if I leave anything out, it's that. It's not often anymore. For a long time, I've been trying to do this for 6 months, and it's gotten better. But it's there. If I don't have a checklist, usually it's that one. I then roll into the kitchen. I immediately down 16 ounces of cold water. Depending on what diet I am, the docs had me change, so now I don't do the keto anymore. I used to do the keto coffee. Now I do a protein shake, which is the scoop of a certain type of grass-fed protein. I down my supplements. I move over to my office chair. I do my planning, which is just pulling from my goals and my projects into the day. Try to look at, what could be bottlenecks, right? So something now that will go to the checklist. I've never had an issue with audio on these webinars. But I also have, as Tag knew, and I should have known better. I even messaged Tag, my fault, my bad. I messaged Tag, he was on there probably 20 minutes early. I didn't get there till 5 till. Again, my fault. I knew I needed to test this stuff, and if I'd gotten there on the right time, I would have had this fixed before you guys jumped on, okay? But that's a bottleneck. That's something I got to look at in the future where, asking yourself the question, where could the bottlenecks come? What could cause bottlenecks, right? And I did it this morning. I went through things like my office is facing the street. It annoys me. You guys don't seem to be able to hear it, but occasionally, the garbage truck will drive by, or the lawn maintenance people for the neighborhood, and it'll annoy me, but it doesn't annoy you guys. I asked, did I want to move? Is it really a bottleneck? No, it's more annoying to me than anybody else, and it doesn't really affect a whole lot. And I would rather just be in the comfort of where I'm most comfortable rather than move things around. So I left it that way. The point is, what are the potential bottleneck or flow interrupts, and how can you deal with them ahead of time? And while I'm doing that, 'cause it takes about 30 minutes, I have the sun lamp, which is sitting right next to me. It's a Philips, I don't know what the hell it is, but a Philips something, just a sun lamp that I stick there, and it gives me 30 minutes of fake sunlight because I'm a hermit and a vampire for most of my life, and that's it. So you're looking for small wins. So when you design your morning, you want to attempt, at, the very least, you want to attempt to design it. Uh, you want to design it in a way that you're, getting small wins. And that's again coming back to that frustration part. You don't design it because it looks cool. That's what we do. We look at what DEX has. We look at what someone has. We're, oh, fuck, man, if I could just do that. We don't design it for where we are today, right? We design it for where we want to be 6 months from now. But we're not that person. That's the key to remember, okay? Ask yourself that question. What can I really do? How can I set it up for the small wins, right? Maybe in the beginning, that 4-minute Tabata, right? Maybe that 4-minute Tabata is, and I don't know if I'm saying that right. Teg, tell me if I'm not, because I really don't know. It's one ignorance I have for years is I just don't give a shit, and maybe I should care more. But am I saying that word right?
I don't think you should. I religiously and regularly pronounce tinnitus wrong. Apparently, it's pronounced tinnitus,
There
but
you go. There you go. So,
yeah.
so maybe that Tabata is just, some quick squats, and you're on your way. Just something to open your body up, get you breathing. Um, Small wins, right? So what are the components? Number one, you should have something diet related. What's something, water, coffee, healthy breakfast. I know many might think coffee's not the answer. Uh, as I told my doc this last weekend, I'll take a few years less and I love my coffee. Okay, I'm going to keep it. All right, I'll keep it until I can't. And I also don't believe that, like most things, I don't believe it's necessarily bad for you. I think that if you abuse it, it is, right? So water, coffee, healthy breakfast, but you should have something that you believe in, something that's easy, right? So for me, I have to have a quick and a medium way. So ideally, I would like to get 6 egg whites, some spinach, and a half a potato in the morning. Um, that's ideally, right? But if I'm in environments, say I'm traveling, etc., and I can't have somebody help me do it for me, etc., because I don't cook, um, if I'm not in an environment that's conducive to that, it's a scoop of the grass-fed protein, third of oatmeal. The point is, it's easy. You know, shake it up, you go. Okay, home blend it, you go. Again, set yourself up to win. Have something that is meaningful to and easy to do over time. But think of environment. Think about what your environment does. Look at history. Don't look at, because I'll see a lot of people make this mistake. They have this breakfast that takes 40 minutes to fix. Probably not ideal, right? As an entrepreneur. And I see it and they get all pumped about it because I heard it on a podcast with Joe Rogan. And they're like, fuck, I'm going to do that every day, when they haven't even been able to eat breakfast for a decade because they're hurried all the time. Remember, small wins, think realistically. Intellectual, reading books, blog posts, listen to audiobooks or podcasts. So for me, if I'm rushed, so I got this 14-minute deal. I'll show you guys in a minute. It's like my quick deal. If I don't, wake up late, if, some whatever, if I'm moving, I got to get moving for whatever reason. I'll just put on the podcast. I'll click it on my iPad and I'll listen to it while I'm doing my routine and I'm out the door. So I combine it. Generally speaking, I roll over, I got my iPad and I'm reading. And I like blogs. Blogs is my big thing, like I told you guys. So something intellectual, something that works for you. In the beginning, literally it could be 5 minutes and build on it, guys. Gals. It's not, it's not about the perfect thing. It's not about Dex reads this much or Joe reads this much. It's about, what have I done? If I'm starting at zero, doesn't it probably make more sense just to throw a podcast on, do some quick squats, like do a 10, 15-minute routine and build on it? Ask yourself that question. Intellectual fitness, right? So that 4-minute Tabata, the 7-minute morning routine, you can Google it. There's 1,000 odd, things out there. I personally think it's great. to get your morning, just a bunch of exercises and stretches to get you moving. Breathing, I think breathing's huge, tremendous. Um, it's quite amazing when you first do the Wim Hof. That's what blew me away is when I could only hold my breath for, I could only hold my breath for like 20 to 30 seconds max, right? But the way he does it, you're holding your breath after you exhale, after you blow everything out. And by the second or third breath, you can go a minute 10, a minute 40, 2 minutes after you've blown everything out. Really shows you how our body is lacking oxygen, right? It's lacking it, and how it holds it when you hyperventilate like that particular thing. So some form of breathing, again, it doesn't have to be Wim Hof. It happens to be the one I like. Box breathing, there's all kinds of breathing techniques out there. Tony Robbins has one. I can't remember what it was, but he's taught it for years. And your fitness, I mean, it could be a 10-minute walk. It could just be your 4-minute Tabata, right? It could be your full anaerobic or workout routine. If that's what you do every day, you just, package it in the middle. Doesn't, again, no right reason. Spiritual mindfulness, it'll help you focus to be more creative and lower stress. Headspace or alternative or praying, right? Some people, it's different strokes for different people. My lady, she prays, I always giggle. I mean, she'll be on her knees sometimes for an hour praying to that dude that is up there, and it's okay. I mean, that's her mindfulness, spiritual. It's, a form of meditation, and it works, right? Doesn't work for me. It's not my thing. Uh, there is no right thing, right? But some form of mindfulness is important, in your day. Review journal. We're going to talk about that later, but what should you be reviewing? Just, you can alternate, review goals, values, principles. So for me, I incorporate it into my day by making them visual, easy to access. They're a tab on the left of my Evernote. They're in other places. And I make it a point, maybe I'm out walking, maybe whatever. I don't spend a lot of time. Okay. I'll spend 2 to 5 minutes just kind of reviewing something, goals, values, just quickly overlooking them. The ideal day is another thing I used to do. Don't do it anymore. The scripted ideal day review, just kind of ingraining what that might look like as it changes, or journaling. Journal. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Your routine must be adaptable. You set yourself up to win. We've talked about this many, many times in this group. For those that listen later, um, setting yourself up to win simply means that you have different levels of system. We're human. Okay, we're going to go through funks. I've been through a tremendous funk over the last 10 days, health related, etc. Okay, but I didn't get off track in terms of, I don't think I had any day where I had the perfect morning routine, but I did something every single day, and I established that I had one, right, on some levels. So having that morning routine that might be an hour long or an hour and a half versus, what can I get done in 15 minutes? Okay, 15 minutes, really, really important. Okay, so use tech to support it. So 30/30 in iOS, Loop Habit, Seconds Pro is what I use on Android. That's to the far right over there. You'll see I talked about it. That's my 15 minutes plus a shower. It takes me 20 minutes for this short thing, right? This thing, what this does is, this is the Seconds Pro here. So Wim Hof, rest, the plantar stretches, just basic stretches, rest. Then I do squats, squats, push-ups, sit-ups, alternate for the 4 minutes, and I'm out the door, right? Actually, I jump in the shower. That's like the quick one. It's easy to do. I just set it up in front of me. I hit go, and it just automates. It's easy to do, and I get through it. And I know in 15 minutes, whatever pain is in there, whatever bullshit's going on in my head, it's all over in 15 minutes, and it makes it a hell of a lot easier. I can promise you. So having some form of tech to support you in form of system is a big plus in my opinion. Uh, Tony has a 10-minute routine now, Leah. Shit, I just saw that. Nova. Huh. Yeah, I didn't even know. Lee, I did. Wow. Yeah, I think I don't know. Maybe I. Bottom line is that, yeah, good stuff. I'm gonna have to check that out. It's probably a good resource for sure. But use tech to support yourself. So, building block number one: get some form of morning routine. Okay, I can promise you this. Okay, I can guarantee you guys that Vin. Uh, you're always trying to figure out how to make that next dollar, right? I can promise this right here is way more important than what Facebook is doing or your next YouTube ad or your next Facebook ad. Because if you don't get this right, or the next building block, or the next building block after that, none of that really matters. Because if you don't get a consistent routine of management of your time and your focus, and develop a routine that creates momentum for yourself, you're kind of fucked. I mean, it's rare that you see people that don't have this. They might not even have it consciously. There's a lot of people they've asked, they'll be like, what's your routine? I go, well, I really don't have one. And then when he really gets down to it, they have exactly a routine. They just don't define it. It just became a routine over time. And the one thing, remember earlier we talked about flexibility. I talked about, this being about you. The thing you want to pay attention to is you have to, you have to really pay attention to what's working, what isn't. What 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 is if you're just not doing something, ask yourself why. We'll talk about later in the goal setting session. I got a really good, kind of 5 layers deep, how you find the root causes, why something isn't working, what you need to do, etc. But the bottom line is that's going to change. It's going to change all the time. So building block number one, your morning ritual. Building block number two, focused A work, deep work. Now, we all know, most of you in here, if you haven't read the book, Deep Work, it's phenomenal, very good, by Cal Newport. He says deep work is the ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task. It's a skill that allows you to quick master complicated information and produce better results in less time. Bottom line, your most important work, right? Most important work. You can only get 3 to 5 hours per day of this type of work. They've proven over time. I can tell you there's some people that can get more. I happen to be one of them. I'm somebody, but I can only do it for a short period of time, like 60 days, and then I burn out. But I can lock in generally 6 hours, like 4 90-minute segments. Typically speaking, you can expect 3 to 5, 2 to 4, depending on who you are. And that's where you can really lock in, get your most creative, important work done. Social media is killing your superpower. It's a huge challenge we have today. It's absolutely fucking killing us. Okay, it's that constant pull to look and be somewhere else, the constant pull of immediate gratification, right? It's hard to sit down and write for 2 hours with something because you're thinking, well, fuck, I can write for 15 minutes, or I can post a meme and the whole world loves me. I get 100 likes and I feel so good about myself. We're trained the wrong fucking way. It's killing us. Okay. We'll talk more about it later. Find your sweet spots for focused work. It doesn't mean in the morning. I'm here to tell you, late in life, I figured out you can change. I couldn't early on. I was a night person all my life. My sweet spot was 7 at night until 1 or 2 in the morning. Okay. So whatever your sweet spot is, build around it. Doesn't mean just because my current one happens to be between 8 and noon, right? Doesn't mean yours has to be that. I would have never, ever thought that that was possible. Find your sweet spot, whatever it is, build around it. Don't try to change just because someone told you to, or because, something you read. All right. Here's what you do. If something's working right now and you're productive at a certain time, go out there and find evidence that supports it. Don't confuse yourself. Don't find the article that says if you don't get up in the morning, you can't succeed. That's all fucking bullshit. Find the articles. Go look for articles about late risers. You'll find 100 of them, okay? Look for stuff to support what you're currently doing unless you want to make the other change and you're committed to it. Use some form of Pomodoro. I was using 90-30. I was, just going 90 minutes straight. And then for whatever reason, remember we talked about changing it? For whatever reason, it just turned off. I couldn't stay focused. I don't know why. And I switched to a 50-10-30. It's working for me. That's 50 minutes on, 10 off, 30 minutes on, break, repeat, right? None of this ever matter if you don't silence the outside world, everything. Coming back to social media. I can guarantee you that the morning routine, these focus work chunks, none of them are going to mean anything. And I mean fucking nothing if you don't get control of that. If you don't silence the outside world and realize that life will be okay if you just turn everything off and take control of your world. Again, I'll repeat what I've talked about before, which is just turn everything off. Take control. You control your own notifications, okay? You control your own notifications. Set your own notifications up when you want to do X. Don't let your phone, your computer, something else define that for you. So focused work, daily ritual building block number 3, focused B and C work. What is that? Those are calls, meetings, urgent and important tasks, email, admin or work related, social. So, a lunch or a dinner meeting or an afternoon coffee meeting, those types of things. Those are your B and C work. All right. You got to fill your days. What most people want, here's what we want. Remember this. This is one of the most important things that I'll ever tell you guys and share with you guys, or it's literally one of the most important things I ever learned myself. And I say this a lot in different contexts. You can't cheat time, and you can't cheat proven long-term principles. Those two things, time and principles, you can't cheat them. So just because I'm behind in something, or because life hasn't worked the way I want it to, doesn't mean that I'm going to get 8 hours a day of focus work. Like you may consciously in your head, you may want that. And you also may, quote, need it to the point that you're like willpowering yourself to constant burnout and quit and repeat, repeat, repeat. I'm telling you, it's impossible. Impossible. You can't cheat it just because shit hasn't worked out. You just have to deal with reality. You deal with reality. So for you, it might be 3 hours a day. It's just all I'm going to get out of my top level shit. And you have to fill your day with other stuff. Again, I'll talk about how I work personally in a second, but it's going to be different for each one of you, right? But the key is this: A, morning ritual; B, focus work; C, those B and C work, right? C work might be things like clearing out your email inbox, just shit that's easy, right? Check, 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 delete, right? Just simple admin type shit that needs done, right? But we don't do it as much as we should, right? So for me, right, this is a week, right? This like next week, as a matter of fact. But again, morning ritual blocked off. For me, again, I talked about it earlier. I'm able to get about 4 of these focus work chunks in, and then I kind of burn out. I get through a Tuesday, and then Wednesday I do my spa. Supposed to have this call with Ryan, right? Bottom line is my B and C work I put all on Wednesdays. But what I will do is like here, let's just say that I'm not feeling it at 1:30 on Tuesday. I'll move that block over here and move this block over there. Remember we talked about flexibility, okay? Flexibility and what it looks like, what your day looks like. This is what all of your calendars should look like if you want to be most effective. Here's the thing though, it doesn't have to be this full. It doesn't have to be this full. And then you're pulling activity into those chunks of time. It doesn't have to be that full. And you also need to have the flexibility of moving that red arrow, that focused work arrow, to the next day and then replacing it with that focus B work, or maybe it's in the same day. You have to understand we're human. We don't know what we're going to feel like hour to hour all the time. The kids, may have a problem and it fucks up that, we have to be flexible. And over time, you'll begin to figure out, okay, this is what, for me right now, is what works best. So I only have to move. I bet I move 2 to 5 of these around every week still, right? To where before I could move 2 to 3 a day until I figured it out, right? Till I got this part, the disengagement here, or over here, this part, the disengagement, the bottom line, right? The bottom line, and by the way, this reminds me, guys, go in next week. I have those 15-minute hot seats. Please grab them. Grab them. They're there. They're in number 2. We'll post them in there again, but they're in the week 2 PDF that I posted in there. You grab that link, get your spot. There's plenty of spots for everybody. I think I have 16 or 18 spots available. The point is this: have a rigid schedule, but also be flexible. Move shit around as needed. So for me, I'm able to get, this is how it works. I never schedule my Saturday or Sundays. I do them as I feel, and I just try to get 2 focused hours in each of those days. I don't generally take a day off. I like doing what I do, and that works for me. So the bottom line, yes, you do, Daniel, you're right there. Bottom line is that's what your day should look like, right? Building block number 4, real simple. For me, it's Evernote. Okay, I have something that comes to me every night in Evernote. Again, transparent. How many times do I fill it out? I have one that comes every morning, which is the 3 things that I'm grateful for, and I have one every night that has these questions. And how do I get it delivered? I deliver it by IFTT, which delivers it to Evernote, and it just sends it to me. Okay, so I do it about the mornings. I do about 3 to 4 days a week, and the nighttime I do about 3 to 4 days a week. Right? But because it's there, right, and it's constantly reminded, and sometimes I'll see it pile up, and I'm like, fuck, I haven't done it for 3 or 4 days, and that internal commitment builds up. I do it, and I get restarted again. But what's the review? What were 2 to 3 wins today? What is the one lesson I learned today? What fucked up my day today? So I think that's important, just to be consciously aware, so we can begin to think about how does that not happen again, or begin to see what reoccurring things. What's my biggest priority tomorrow? So that's all I want to know. That's what I want to think about today before I get into tomorrow's planning. I want to think about what's my biggest priority. What's a win tomorrow if this one thing happened? Those 4 questions for me. Again, for you, they may be different questions. I don't know what they are. But how do you wrap up your day? What are some quick, easy, simple things that if you just automate, set up, come to your phone, you type in a few things, you're setting yourself up for momentum for the morning, right? So 1, daily ritual morning. 2, focused A work, deep work, Cal Newport. 3, C and D, B and C, focused B and C work. 4, the review, right? And then finally, I'm sorry, that should be 5. Finally, 5 is sleep, the X factor. This is something I recently added in the last 8 months. Been huge for me. Okay, I mean, I can't tell you how much better in general I've been because of this. Although I've recently had some issues, I can tell you the 6 months prior was phenomenal because of, and a big part of this was this. So for me, what is it? Having that sleep ritual, little things. Use blue glassers. These glasses right here, you get on Amazon, they're $9. I've had the $90 glasses, and I don't see any fucking difference. Okay, $7 on Amazon. It's their Amazon Basics one, and they're really good. They work great. Get yourself a couple pair. Have one by the computer out front. 1 hour before bed, you put those goofy ass things on, and and use them. When I talk to my daughter at night, it's late. I always have those on. She always laughs at me. Sleep tea with apple cider vinegar. Okay, right there, this yogi, it's like $3 a box. I can tell you guys, I bought the Tim Ferriss shit. Was not as good as this right here. Okay, and it was like $16 a box. I'm not saying you have to be cheap, but again, it's stupid to spend $16 when you're just pouring some apple cider vinegar in there. It tastes like shit anyway. So, you grow to like it over time, but the tea, the bottom line is you want it to have the shit that helps you relax and get ready for bed. Take a sleep supplement. I've tried all kinds of shit. I've paired, just the individual ingredients together. This right there, Sleep Optimizer by Jarl, has been the best thing for me. Airplane mode, once I'm finally ready to wrap down, phone and iPad on airplane mode, and then use sleep cycle type of app. Sleep cycle is simply one that you put it on, it's going to wake you up at the appropriate time. You end up with this, right? So 91 nights, average time 6.5 hours. I'm not meeting my goal. I want 7:15. 86% sleep quality here. It's going to measure your sleep quality. I can tell you that number right there has been fucking huge for me. Okay, it's been tremendous in terms of like it's just weird. If I get days where that sleep quality score is below 60, I feel groggy. I feel like shit. It means something. That's all I could tell you. And I got enough data to tell me that it's significant and means something. So using an app like Sleep Cycle, right, is big. It's just going to measure your sleep. It's going to wake you up at the appropriate time, where you're not in the middle of a sleep cycle. Maybe you're just waking up, but yet your alarm's set for 20, 30 minutes out. You don't want to go back to sleep and be stuck right in the middle of fucking the sleep you don't want to wake up in. And that's what it helps you do. But most importantly, you can gauge, you can take notes and gauge when you feel best and set that optimal time. So for me, 7:15 is the optimal time. You could see, just being honest, I'm not meeting it, okay, consistently, right? I got to get better, but I have that. I have that to look at, and I know the data. That's the important part. Next thing, relax, sprint, disengage. Leah, are you here? Leah. Colette, Dan, Delora, thanks for hanging in, guys. Leah Newman, Leah K, Shari, Vaughn, Schlong, Clancy. If you're here, Leah, can you let her come in real quick, tag, please?
Leah Newman.
Yes, Leah Newman, sorry.
Hi. Unmuted. Leah, you're currently self-muted, so you have to unmute yourself. There we
Hello.
go.
Hey, Leah. So I wanted you to share real quick. So I talked to Leah, I don't know, about a week ago, and I was having these health issues and kind of realizing, okay, I wasn't doing this disengaged thing well enough. And what was the metaphor or the words or the things that you shared with me, Leah, if you wouldn't mind sharing with the group, in terms of how you need to schedule and manage time in your life, etc., your energy? Wasn't there like three
Oh,
words?
I'm trying to remember.
It was from some book, and it was like comfort. Ah,
You're talking about the zones.
yeah,
Comfort
zones.
zone. Got it. Comfort zone, stress zone, and stretch zone.
There you go.
Um, so comfort zone is what most of us are trying to get out of. Comfort zone is what keeps us not putting ourselves out there, not going after the big things. It keeps us in the kind of the mundane. Um, but what we're really looking for is to be in the stretch zone, which is basically you're stepping outside your comfort zone. It is a stretch. So we're, stepping into new things. We're creating new things. The challenge, though, is to really pay attention and make sure you don't step into the stress zone, which in my experience is what I see most entrepreneurs doing. We've got this mindset that if you're not hustling, then you're not doing it right.
Yep.
And the problem is that hustle and what I call surge mentality really creates this long-term, completely unsustainable lifestyle where you're constantly living in the stress zone. And when you do that, your body has no other choice but to shut down from time to time.
Yep.
And you either consciously choose to shut down, from which you never fully recover because you spent so long in the stress zone, or your body will shut you down for you, one of the
Yes.
two. And so the key is to really figure out where is that fine line for yourself where you're still in the stretch zone with your toes on the line right before you're in this stress zone, and also making sure that you're taking adequate time for yourself to rest and recuperate so that you don't accidentally kind of hit that tipping point and unintentionally go into the stress zone.
That's good shit. So like for me, like where I found out is like if you go back here, you look at my things. I have my spa morning and my core lift day, which is really a spa day. I spend about 3-4 hours at the end of the night at the spa. But what I found, Leah and the rest of the group, what I found was when I really looked back at it, it really was not disengagement. What it was is I'd go to the spa, I'd go in and I'd do a round of like I'd jump in the hot tub, then I'd go over and uh, go to the different. There was 3 different types of saunas: the wet sauna, the dry sauna, etc. Or I'd be up in the clay rooms or whatever, and I'd do this little cycle, and then I'd go down to the what they call the relax or sleep room, but I'd be there with my iPad and my phone, and literally, 60% of the time I'm in there, I'd be in there for like 40 minutes on calls, doing business, talking to people, or reading about business. I was never really disengaging. And so what I thought was disengagement, I was fooling myself because it was really just at the spa doing business. Does that make sense? And so yeah, so the other, disengagement is huge, or you end up in Chicago at a hospital. Um, and when you're younger, you get away with shit. At least we think we're getting away with it. But as you get older, you begin to realize all that shit you thought you were getting away with, you weren't really getting away with, because your body pays a price and it doesn't function as well as it used to. So this whole idea of incorporating, that's why I say focus stay BC, because we can only do so much of this stress. We're not built for 24 hours of stress. We're built for sprint or stress and then disengage, etc. So thanks for sharing that with us, Leah, if you're still there.
My
Tag.
pleasure.
Okay, thank you very much. And with that, we are way behind, but I can assure you guys this next thing that I'm going to be sharing with you is should be really, really, I think you guys will like it a lot. Okay. And this is basically, principles that I've picked up over 15 plus years. I'm going to share 52 of them. We're going to rapidly go through them. It's going to be, this is the principle, this is why. Won't spend a lot of time on each one. If you guys will hang in with me, we'll push the second session back a half hour, but this is going to go a little bit over, but I'd appreciate you guys if you hang in there. I promise it'll be worth it. Tag, I'm going to take a 5-minute break is what I had scheduled. Let's do 3 minutes. I'm just going to grab a drink. I'm going to stretch, go to the restroom. I'm going to come back. I encourage you guys to do the same. I appreciate if you'd hang in there. Let's wrap this first session up before we get on to the second session. And strategic operating principles are coming next. Tag, I will be back in 3 minutes, okay? And if you guys have any questions, post them in there so I can grab them while I'm on break here, and I'll be right back in, okay? Tag, I'll be back, okay?
Roger, Roger.
All right, bud. I'm back, Tag. You there?
Welcome back.
All right, guys and gals. Colette, Dan, Delora, Leah. If you guys could just let me know you guys are back, I will get started. Linda, Von Slung, if you will let me know, I would appreciate it. Tag, let me know if they're saying yes, because I cannot see.
And we have, yep, Colette's back, Dolores here, Leah's here,
All right,
Daniel's here.
good. All right, guys. So your operating system. I mean, in the end, as dumb as it sounds, we're really just robots with programs that repeat shit over and over again. The only problem is 90% of our programming is given to us from other people, and that's generally never a good thing for the most part, specifically for growth, because we generally don't change the operating system. So without consciously having personal strategic principles, the person that's made that famous recently is Ray Dalio. His book Principles, I highly recommend y'all read. I've actually pulled, I think, all of the stuff that came from that book out of this particular list because I recommend y'all read it. It's just that good. It really goes into the philosophy of why you need principles, how you use them, ultimately what it is. It's a filtering system to be able to make effective, conscious, deliberate decisions. If you don't have principles that you consciously think about, they're going to be given to you, they're going to be programmed, and they're going to constantly change, which is why we say yes to everything, where we do one thing one week and something else the next, okay? Because we're easily swayed because we don't have a conscious way of looking at things. I can tell you that one of the things I've done for a very long time, the single most read document I had, and I mean thousands of times, not thousands of times, that I've read is the full version of the document I'm about to give you. So when there's no established process for doing something, you will float through life and end up somewhere you did not choose. Your general operating principles are a set of principles, heuristics, and rules of thumb to enable more effective judgments for modifying existing systems or creating new ones. Bottom line, if you don't have your own input, your own operating system, your own way of thinking, right, you're going to those systems that are already there, that's in your mind, they're going to easily sway and change because you don't consciously, deliberately think about things. So I'm going to share with you 52 of the ones I think could be valuable to you. If you guys want the other document, I'll tell you how you can get it afterwards. Where do these come from? Number one, I'd like to think I'm original. Of these 52 you guys see today, there's probably 4 to 6 that I would say are somewhat original. 48 of them, 47 of them came from somewhere. Okay. Biggest misconception out there, people or things that people do is they have, this thing. Tony Robbins teaches this. There's 4 I can't. Wow, bullshit. Bullshit. You want to know why I've been able to sell notes as a hobby for 12, 13 years, 15 years now, maybe? No, 13 years. I never had any issues at all. Attempts, but no issue. It's because there's nothing original out there. When we do things, we backsource them. People go to court, they got to be able to show that they have original thought and ideas. They can't do it, okay, because there's very little out there. There's plagiarism. You take, thing for thing. If I don't have my own take on something, and ultimately what I'm trying to say is this: reinventing the wheel's fucking stupid, okay? Taking ideas, merging them together, creating a principle that works for you, that's great. But along the way through life, you're going to pick up things. The key is, what are the ones we pick up? What are the ones that we keep to manage ourselves day to day? All right, so I'm going to run through some of the ones that have been effective for me. Know your magic number. I don't know. There's a bunch of people that I got this from. Last one being probably Kennedy. I don't know, but it's been around forever. biggest part about this knowing your magic number is the whole delusion part of it. And we're going to talk about that at the end, the why part. So how much do you need to make an hour? Your base earning target, let's say it's 100,000 divided by 220 working days. 8 hours equals 1,760 hours per year equals 5681 base number. You times that by 1.30, 70% productive hours. So assuming you have 70% productive hours, which is high, by the way, would be $73 a must per hour, or $1.23 a minute. So when they kill the clock and they close the lid on your coffin, you don't have any money left, but you will not have any time left. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, something I recently picked up from my friend Bill Perkins, which is still my money, but do not waste my time. All right, so still my money, but don't waste my time. We have alarm systems and insurances to protect our stuff, but most people do not have anything to protect their time. By looking at how you use your time, you will have a direct link to what your bank balance is. You must always create deadlines for everything. Deadlines create urgency and follow through. Work to have a clock, have your measurements. All right, so bottom line is this. Number one, most people use this whole magic number thing wrong because A, they way overestimate. I'm saying 70%. Truth is, for most people, it's more like 50% productive. So that number would probably be closer to $100 an hour. Number two, they think they can just outsource anything. That's all bullshit. If you can't afford to pay the bills, how the fuck can you afford to outsource anything? So if you don't get the number right to begin with, so if you're currently earning 50,000 and you want to earn 100,000, you don't base your fucking number on 100,000. You maybe stretch it. You say, okay, I'm going to base my number on 60K. That's going to give you more realistic numbers to scale on. But you don't like just magically create. You don't just sit there, with your Brian Tracy imaginary fucking wand and just pretend like my time's worth X amount. What is it really worth? Because if you don't get real about that, you're fucked. But you do need to know the number, and you need to scale that number. It's important to know it and scale it. And there's also all kinds of facts, right? What I'm doing today, I don't know, 300, 400 hours in. If I base it on just current numbers, I'm fucked, right? Because I wouldn't do it. But I have a vision. I think I know where I'm going. It's based on future money. I don't know that I'll get there. So sometimes your work is based off future number, but you also got to ask yourself, can I do that, right? Is it reasonable to do that? Do I have the income? Do I have the assets? Do I have the lifestyle to support being able to do that? But it's important to have a base number, a number to know what your time is worth and scale it. Be real and scale it, okay? Be real and scale it. And it's also hard to value your time if you don't have a value attached to it. Number two, continually identify and discover hidden assets. It's a Jay Abraham thing, right? Jay was a huge influence on me in the 90s. Overlooked opportunities, underperforming activities, undervalued relationships, untapped resources, and intellectual capital in our business. I'm here to tell you guys right now, you're always looking for the next thing. If you start there, where are the hidden assets? What's the overlooked opportunities? What emails have I not sent? Who out there has my audience that I'm good friends with that I could leverage something with, right? The relationships. The intellectual capital. What's that thing that my audience would want that I could just do a one-off webinar on that they would immediately buy? Bottom line is that there's usually immediate money on the table that we're just leaving there because we're constantly hopping from thing to thing trying to find that thing that's going to blow us up to this imaginary fucking thing that we think is out there. So continually identifying and discovering hidden assets, big mindset. It's a mindset shift, again, directly from Jay Abraham, just carried with me for years. Engineering success into every action you take or decision you make. Be deliberate and slow. Don't be a dog. Think. Again, I can't fucking stand the mentality out there, the salesmanship out there that says if you don't make a decision now, you're a scumbag, you're a loser, if you can't make a decision now, how can I expect you to do this later? All that fucking bullshit in the internet marketing world that is exactly that. Fucking bullshit. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you right now, if you're making quick, easy decisions, meaningful decisions in the moment, you are fucking dumb. Okay? Dumb. And I'll tell anybody that. If you're not deliberately thinking through things, which generally takes time, right? What is it going to mean for me? What's the ROI going to be? How's it going to affect my family? All those things they'll tell you you're wrong for. Fuck your family. You're the leader. You're the man. You're the alpha, right? Fuck your wife. Screw your kids. All the shit, that they want you to believe. That's all fucking bullshit. Deliberate, slow, think. See, that's the thing. They don't want you to think. When I mean they, I'm talking about the salesman. They're trying to get you to buy their thing now. They don't want you to think. They're cutting through your fucking filters by telling you and shaming you into believing that if you do think or you do make logical, right? If you do make logical decisions, do smart things like asking your wife so you don't get fucking divorced, right? I mean, if you don't do those, if you fuck that up, it's bad. It's bad business. It's bad. It's a bad life principle to make quick decisions. You want to be quick, but define quick. You can make lots of quick decisions if they're, risk isn't high, right? Risk reward. Doesn't mean you have to make week-long decisions. So the difference is the guy that says, "Look, I got to talk to my wife," and he's stressed. He don't know how to approach his wife, right? So he takes 2 weeks. Versus the guy that says, "Look, I'm going to go talk to my wife. We're going to have dinner. When we're in bed tonight, I'll make sure I talk to her. I'll talk to you in the morning," right? That's deliberate, thoughtful, right? You're making smart, deliberate things. Bottom line, think, slow, deliberate. That thought process will get you way further than the mindset that a lot of people will sell you on. Be different, distinctive, special, unique, and advantageous in the eyes of your clients. In today's day and age, you almost have to reinvent yourself in some way, form, or another about every 18 months to 24 months. You need to be seen as unique. I mean, it's just the bottom line. There's too much unique shit out there to catch the attention of your audience. And if you're not doing something to catch their attention that isn't the same shit, right, on a consistent basis, you're going to be in trouble. I value living an integrated life. I have systems that allow me to move towards desired outcomes, and business relationships help. Spirituality. Look, this changes. My life was real easy for a decade plus. I could set things up so that, I integrated. What does it simply mean? You could have some form of balance. I've talked before, I don't believe that there is balance. I believe that there's moments, magic moments. There's the ability to create perceived value. Perceived balance by having impact in small amounts of period in other areas of your life. HIIT training versus marathon training, right? True 1 hour, locked in one-to-one time where I'm listening, caring, locked in with the wife, with the girlfriend, with the kid, right? And then I value an integrated life and then create systems to support that. Always be looking for moments, opportunity to create real value for your clients, develop maximum loyalty results and sustaining relationships. It's just, this whole thing of you're an advocate for your customers. You can always tell people that are not because you never hear from them beyond they've sold you a product. I can tell you right now, 100% who will be around a decade from now and those that won't. Just go through the program. Doesn't matter if good or bad. I'll promise you there's people out there that are programs that are not great right now that will be market leaders in 5-10 years from now. But here's how you tell. Maybe they ain't got the shit down, right? But they fucking try and they're connected and they're always trying to help you and give more, share what they're learning. You could just sense it versus those that'll just, here's your product And you hear from them every fucking day, 2-3 times a day before the sell. Sell happens. Where the fuck did Joe go? Like I haven't heard from that motherfucker in a year. Until when? The next selling opportunity. Those people will never, ever be around. They won't be. History is proven. We have 100 years to prove that that is the case. And it's more important today than ever before. Always looking for moments, opportunity to create value. That's it, something of value, share. Something of value, quick video. Hey guys, look, I learned this. Something of value, pop-up webinar, pop-up get together, pop-up, whatever it is. Bottom line, it's a mindset. Get maximum personal leverage for every action, investment, time, or energy commitment you ever take. How can you leverage things? Okay, how can you do it? Give you an example. If this was an ongoing thing, and it wasn't an evolution of trying to figure something out, it wasn't a fact-finding mission, if it was a business directive, what we're doing right now, I would have done something like a live offer for each session, right? I would have done something like, hey, we got 4 coaches that are going to do, 30-minute hot seats at the end of it for X amount of money for those of you that need more clarity on what we're teaching today. I would have done something like, I could have done 10 different things to maximize the energy commitment that I'm putting in right now, but it's a different directive. It's a different objective. But if it was purely, okay, the program's up, it's going, it's moving, that mindset is how do you maximize everything? If you're going to an event, right? How do I maximize that event? From a networking perspective, could I rent out a suite and have a networking dinner? Could I have a front end and a back end half-day seminar with the audience I know is going to be there that love me, that are willing to, have the herd pay for the event? Could I have in-suite hot seat sessions, pay for the event? Again, maximize what it is that you're doing. It's a mindset. I take a long-term perspective when making decisions. I consider second and third order effects. I realize that it's compound interest over the long term. It leads to results. I play long ball. Simple answer question. All right, someone posted on my thing the other day, Dex, you need another guy. I want to be your stateside guy. Message me, begging me, whatever. Doesn't matter if I'm good or bad. That's besides the point. The point is, I've already made a decision. I'm committed to Dan. That's where I'll be. No amount of money would take me away from that because I have a long-term perspective. So when I make decisions, it's not based on today. It's based on long-term, where I know it's going, and I have the wisdom of 20 years to know that in hindsight, when you look back 5 years at something, you generally laugh at the things that you were stressed about and the time frames, etc. Second, third order effects, what does that mean? Okay, if I eat today, first order effect, it tastes good, it feels good, therefore I eat it. Second order, the health benefits, right? The immediate health benefits, etc. The long-term health benefits, I live longer, blah, blah, blah. Third order, how does it affect with the greater good, right? How does it affect my family? How does it affect my ability to lead? How does it affect my legacy, right? So thinking in terms of second and third order, huge, huge. But we can get myopic. I sure was for a long time. I was really good, the business stuff, not so good in other areas. Networking, masterminding, and brainstorming with like-minded, success-driven people. The mastermind principle, real simple. Guys, look, when this whole thing's over, a lot of you might ask, where should I go? What should I do? I'm going to tell you the single most important thing you'll ever do that won't cost you a dime. Won't cost you a penny, okay? Don't invest money with us. Don't invest money with the next guy. Here's the single most important thing you'll do. Find people you respect. Find a bunch of them. Reach out to them and say, look, I want to create an informal mastermind. I want to meet every Sunday at 2 o'clock for an hour. We just share our wins, give feedback, etc. Create your own fucking mastermind. It's the most important thing you'll ever do, A, and B, you'll be shocked at the people that actually say yes. and you'll create something that you can't pay for. Okay, you can't pay for, but this whole concept of mastermind, because someone else brought it up, I think it was Jamie or someone else was talking about, this isn't a mastermind, by the way, this is a coaching, okay? And 95% of everything else out there is coaching. Masterminding is how Jay Abraham did it. I encourage all of you to find an old Jay Abraham program, go through his mastermind marketing, any of them, okay? You'll see what a true mastermind is. Jay almost never spoke. Jay would get up, he would talk about a principle, he'd say, hey, this is what host beneficiary relationship is. He'd say, does anybody in here have really good idea or ways that you're using it that's been successful? Go line up at the mics. They'd all line up at the mics, and for the next 2 hours, one person after another, we'd get 50 fucking ways to do something. It was phenomenal. It was amazing. That's mastermind, and that's what you do. Get on these calls, you say, hey, this is my problem, guys, help me out. And you got 10 people, maybe you rotate 2 people a week, whatever the case is, use masterminding. I do it a lot. Turn yourself into an idea generator and recognize innovator, unleash your creativity, always have a system to capture ideas. Bottom line is you're only going to be seen as a leader if you have leading edge thoughts, if you have thoughts that are the opposite of what everybody else is thinking. The only way to do that is to what? Input, read, listen. Most importantly, we're going to talk later a little bit about the whole idea of capturing it all. Evernote, something else. Capture the fucking ideas. I move towards the resistance. This is war of art. I'm always moving away from my comfort zone into growth opportunities, into my stretch zone. Leah talked about that stretch zone. Bottom line, here for me. Let me tell you what that means for me. Okay. I've learned along the way that the definition, I'm not a huge believer in the whole big, hairy, audacious goal thing. I am, but I'm not. Let me explain what I mean. I think you should have that big goal, but I think your focus should always be 90 days out. And your focus should be touching that resistance barrier 90 days out consistently, because otherwise we lose what? We lose trust in ourselves because we're focused on that 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 10-year goal. And we end up fucked because, that's so far off. We can't see it. We can't feel it. We can't touch it. And it ends up screwing us. So bottom line, move towards resistance, but don't be unrealistic. Be rational, be pragmatic, be rational about where you've been, where you are, what's that stretch. Leah called it touching the line. I like that metaphor. Touch the line, maybe step over it a little bit, but don't fool yourself. Don't buy into because you just read this article and I'm fucking pumped. I'm gonna fucking do it. I'm gonna take on the world, but you haven't done shit for X amount of time. Just get back to being pragmatic. Stretch yourself, understand that real success happens over a long period of time, little progress at a time. Making growth thinking a natural part of your everyday business philosophy and capture the ideas. Bottom line, like I talked about earlier, how can you maximize opportunity? Reversing the risk for both you and your clients. I think this is a J thing again. I can't remember, to be honest with you 100%, but I'm pretty sure. And everything you do, so the downside is almost zero. And the upside is potentially near infinite. This is a big thing I learned from Laurent, my partner. The core business we are in as entrepreneurs is risk management. We are ultimately investment bankers. That's our core, should be our core competency in business, managing risks, increasing upside for both yourself and your clients, your customers. I'm here to tell you guys, if you are afraid to guarantee your shit, there's 2 things to understand. Number one, you can look, there's so much info out there. People don't ask for refunds in general. So minimizing risk in anything you do, the more you can minimize it to whatever level, you're way better off doing that. Okay. And then in business, for your own business, understanding that your job is to manage risk. Your job is to look at, okay, it's low risk, high upside, instant, easy decision, right? High risk, super high upside, right? You got to make decisions. Am I willing to, am I really willing to take the downside? Looking at that on a consistent basis. One way to help with that is to use safe, small tests to eliminate the danger risks. So you don't always have to jump in. You don't have to jump in. Let's say someone comes to you and they say, hey, Vin, hey, Leah, hey, Joe, let's get you doing YouTube ads, an agency. That's fine, Bob. Prove to me it works. What am I gonna have to spend? 5 grand a month? All right, here, I'll give you 2 grand. Prove to me it works. Let's do a little test here. Run 2 different campaigns. Show me an ROI. Do that. You got my attention. Let's fucking go, right? Save, small tests to eliminate the dangerous risks. You should never jump in just because XYZ did it, right? And he's killing it. He's not you. He's not you. It's the big challenge in internet marketing is the context. People never look at context. They never look at he worked, yeah, because he was first mover. Yeah, because he was the first one on that platform. Yes, because he was in a thing when nobody else was there. Yes, because you don't look at context. 20 different things come into play. Small test, figure out if it works before you move forward. Real simple. I study to increase my skills. I recognize that a steady diet of reading and contemplation is vital to personal development, my ability to lead, and my happiness. I mean, that's just simple. If I'm not doing it, me personally, I'm dumber. I'm not as effective. I'm not as motivated. If I'm not, if I don't have the input, I'm, not in a good spot. A lot of work went into even this webinar, believe it or not. It's easy, one of the easiest ones. Set and achieve your own lofty but rational stretch goals, but you've got to be able to recognize the process to achieve them. Lots of people have goals, but very few people reverse engineer the systematic sequence of simple actions necessary to occur to them to get that outcome. What am I saying there? I'm saying you want to have the big goal, but you want to have that short-term process. I like the idea of taking your goals and putting them into systems. That's why you see my daily, morning routine. That's really all part of a bigger goal. But I don't focus on the goal as much as I do the day-to-day process, right? The day-to-day process. Right now, a big thing for me, for instance, is how do I set up, so I spent a lot of the last week, how do I set up, I just have to be real. I can't be delusional and think, okay, this is the time that my health is going to sustain. I'm going to be able to keep going. Now I realize, look, I got some stuff I got to deal with. This stuff might pop up. How do I create a personal system, get it in place so that that doesn't disrupt everything in my life when it happens, okay? Bottom line, have processes in place, right? Be process oriented that are tied to goals. Try to figure out how can I take these 90-day goals and set them into my day-to-day life as much as possible in a systemized format, process systems. So I'm not really focused on goals as much as I am just accomplishing certain things on a day-to-day basis, knowing that that's going to get me closer to my goal faster than anything else. Develop a process to effectively overcome obstacles, the struggling with challenges of waste, overcome them, resolving them, circumventing them is a mindset that you've got to install. Most entrepreneurs avoid this. I'm going to talk in a minute about my specific decision-making process, but the bottom line is this. Most entrepreneurs, what I've found is they just avoid, right? It's kind of like avoiding the bill collectors. Does it really help you? No, it doesn't. The calls come, we avoid, and then they just show up and take the car, right? When if we just handled it, it would have fixed itself, if at least gave us a better opportunity. Ultimately, what I'm saying there is that you can't avoid your way out of obstacles and problems. You have to effectively deal with them head on. That's ultimately it. I have prioritized establishing, enhancing meaningful personal relationships. I always have time for a family or a true friend. Again, coming back to, all right, so I got 10 days off track. Just whatever, just out of whack. Really like 3 weeks because Utah fucked me up with the altitude, and then, I had to deal with my health issues. I'm way off track, fucking feeling some internal stress, etc. Come back, get to Vegas, buddy of mine, struggling. Says, look, but he's a certain type of buddy, first off. God bless him, but he's a kind that can take a story that literally should take 2 to 4 minutes to tell, and he'll make it last 45 minutes. It's unreal. Love the guy, but you know if you're going to sit with him for dinner, it's going to be 5, 6, 7 hours sometimes. But he needed me, and he's a good friend. And I didn't have the time in my mind, but because this is a principle and it's a high level principle, not only principle, but the next thing we're going to talk about value, I just went. And guess what? It went like 6 hours. Bottom line is you can't have time for everybody, but you need to prioritize who you do have time for. And you need to give it and just trust in the process, trust that life, karma, whatever you want to call it, will take precedent, will help, will overcome, right? You got to be committed to persistence. Persistence is like the military. This comes from Jay Abraham. I can hear it in his voice. They hope that their frontal attack works, but they're not going to leave the war and put up the white flag if they're confronted with resistance. They're going from one side, from above, from underneath. If there's water, they're going to go by night stealth. They're going to send unmanned missiles, and they're going to do everything because they just want to win the war. And it would be great if you could do it in one fell swoop and just clean up. Nobody gets hurt and go back, but they're prepared to do whatever it takes to be victorious. If you're not prepared to do that, you may not be victorious. So recently, right, I wanted, keyword wanted, I wanted to attack a certain audience and attract a certain audience in Dan's world. Unfortunately, did some research, did some polls, did some deep dive pulling of information that we could get. Found out that 70% of our market is the exact opposite of what I wanted. And the ability to switch and pivot and attract the audience that I ideally wanted probably would take too fucking long. So I had to consciously think, all right, if this is our audience, this is who they are, how are we going to best serve them? How am I going to align my personal philosophy and goals and wants and needs and desires to make it so that I'm okay with it? How can I serve this market at the highest level? You know, Dan's world. And then we had to relook at everything, right? But if I didn't have this concept of persistence over time and being flexible in approach, I would have just maybe gave up. I would have forced something that would have took a long time. Instead, you got to relook at strategy. You got to relook at reality. That's the thing I looked at, reality. But ultimately, the other thing is this too, okay? All of you, everybody in internet marketing, etc., that's whining and crying about email or Facebook or poor me, fucking government, blah, blah, that's all bullshit, okay? In the end, persistence, right? Committed to persistence, talked about the military metaphor here. You got to have more ways. You got to have, other ways. If you're affected dramatically by one thing, it's because you don't have enough pillars inside of your business, okay? Can't be reliant on one thing. Ethics. Throughout all of this, you got to be distinguished. You got to distinguish yourself and operate at the highest end of ethics, integrity, of veracity. If you lower yourself to the level of a lot of people in the world today, you won't be distinctive, you won't be preeminent, you won't stand out. If you operate at this high level, you will win over people, and they will stay with you. Important note, and this is important, guys and gals, morals are usually something society or a group will impose upon you. Establishing your own values and living by them without the one fuck care of others is incredibly important. Thick skin is a must. Thick skin. Another book I highly recommend you guys read to pull some principles from. Blackface. Oh my gosh. One of my favorite books ever. Tag. Do you know what it is? Anybody? Chinese.
I think it's Thick Face,
Black
Black Heart.
There you go. Thick Face, Black Heart. Okay, that phenomenal book. Phenomenal book. Really hammers, home this concept of thick skin. The bottom line is this: morals. People would have you believe that whatever. Nudity's bad, right? Porn is bad. This is bad. That's bad. There's all these rules, religion rules. Look, I'm not here to judge anybody. What I'm here to tell you is that my ethics, my morals are not going to be yours, and I'm going to live my life on my rules, not yours. And if you don't like it, get the fuck out of my world. That's just the way I'm going to operate, and that's how I recommend you guys operate, because otherwise you're going to go through life constantly tiptoeing. It also doesn't mean you can't be a chameleon. You need to be a chameleon. You need to be able to fit in, right? My lady's religious, very, very high integrity, blah, blah, got children. You think I go over there and watch porn on TV in front of them, watch R-rated movies, swear? I don't do a lot of that stuff. I mean, I swear, but it's not that much. I don't have to force myself to do it, though, right? I just respect her ethics and principles and morals to where in that environment, I'm okay being a certain way. But it doesn't change who I am. It doesn't change who I am. So morals, ethics, understand that if you are defining them by the Bible or religion or whatever, I just encourage you to understand that that doesn't necessarily have to be everybody else's deal. Be flexible enough to understand that so you're not chasing a bunch of people in your life away, and understand that it's okay that you can have your own rules in life. And there are some standard stuff. I mean, the commandments, etc. There's some good shit there, right? There's a lot of standard universal laws that make sense, common sense. You got to be willing to take not dangerous risks, but take calculated investments in your future. Again, I mean, it's about, I'm telling you guys, the next person that tells you that you're weak for not making a decision today, or they use that close on you, run, because I don't know of any rational, intelligent, wealthy person, whether they be wealthy in money or family or whatever it is, that does not take a calculated period of time to rationally think through things. So calculated investments in your future. Think them through. I seek first to understand, then to be understood. Stephen Covey, right? I think from the other person's point of view before my own, right? Here today, I'm trying to think about you guys. I'm trying to think, which ones of these principles might help you the best out of 250. How do I pull 50 of them? It was a struggle, right? But how do I pull 50 of them to talk about today? You guys are going to read the rest later, but how I pull 50 of them. Fearlessness, the sky won't fall. The world's not going to collapse. You won't go broke or look stupid. It's quite the opposite. Really, doom and failure, you only go to those who stay stuck in the status quo. It'll save you millions. It'll save you years. It'll save you emotional hardship, and it'll catapult and propel you. Pull your zipper down. Make sure you still have balls or lady balls. Speak up and be heard. What am I saying? I'm saying this twofold. Number one, I don't almost don't know an exception, and I think all of you would agree that when you look back on what you thought was horrible in the moment, like and years or months have passed, and you look back at something and it's over with, like those moments where you're like sick to your stomach and you're fucking like, holy shit, how am I going to get through this? It's like my life's over, and then a year later you look back and you're like, wow, I mean, it was really nothing, right? When that's wisdom. When you go through life enough, you realize that pretty much everything. I've seen people lose entire audiences, and 2 years later, they have thriving businesses. They lose an entire audience for some reason, whatever it is, and then they think, oh, my life's over with. But they don't realize is there's like billions of people out there. I've never heard of them or anybody else. I've never heard of, however they fucked up, and then they love them, because they learned and they moved on and they grew, whatever the case is. The bottom line is that, having that fearlessness, knowing that at a deep level, if you really look backwards at your life and realizing that, it gives you courage that you need to move forward. And the second thing is, that speaking up and being heard, when you know something, right? I want to, you'll hear from me, by the way, Linda. Linda sent me a message the other day, and I love her for it. I don't dislike her. She was fucking awesome. And NFL. Bottom line, good luck, Laura. The bottom line is that having the courage to really speak up and say some things that are uncomfortable to your market and be an advocate for your market. I mean, when you speak up and out against leaders, it's like it's the scariest fucking thing ever, because you're thinking, the world will hate me. What you realize is those are the moments, having that fearlessness, those are the moments that will define who you are. Daily motivation. You really have to do, review and revisit this belief system every day. Remember, your brain is like a balloon. I'm talking there, basically just reminding myself, they don't just, this stuff is ingrained in me. It's why I can just rapidly go through it like off the tip of my tongue better than anything else, because I know it frontwards, backwards. But the bottom line is that if I quit, if it doesn't, something I review constantly, remember, balloon, shrink, up, shrink, right? It's just that's the way it is. Giving back, you've got to give back to others just the way. Hopefully people are giving back to you. You don't do it with expectation. I'm just a big believer in that. I don't believe in that whole thing that if you give too much away, people won't buy, people won't do, people won't X. I just think you give, and you never stop giving. Bottom line is that it's just the way. It really is, specifically in today's world more than ever before. How I make decisions, okay? Before I do that, I think I can get done in about 30 more minutes, but I'm going to take a quick restroom break, 1 minute. I'll be right back. Guys, stand up, stretch. I'll be back. Please hang in there with me. We got 30 more minutes. I'll be right back. Okay, Teg?
Yeah. I got a
All
joke
right.
for you.
Oh,
Oh,
joke. Well, no,
what?
let's hear the joke, Teg. Go ahead.
It's a terrible dad joke.
Well, let's hear it though.
Okay. What do you call Postman? What will you call Postman Pat when he retires?
Okay, what we call who?
Postman Pat. It's a children's TV show
Yes.
here.
Okay, go ahead.
You call him Pat because he's retired. He's no longer a postman.
Guys, that might be maybe the worst joke I've heard in a long time, but it was so bad that I had to giggle a little bit. Thanks, Teg.
Mission
So,
accomplished.
all right, how do I make decisions? Number one, groan, Colette. Does this integrate into and support the vehicle I'm already using to get to its objectives? So, number one is, look, whatever is in front of me, a decision I'm making, does it fit into what I'm doing? That's the biggest fucking, biggest problem that people have in this myopic world of internet marketing is that they don't stick to shit. You never do. Two, does this subtract or distract what I'm doing? Does this opportunity allow me to leverage what I'm already doing, my customers, etc.? Four, should I be in bed with this person or organization? Is there synergistic value? So it's all really the same question, right? But it's just digging a little bit deeper. Ultimately, is it a distraction? And then if you're going to look at it as an opportunity, you got to start asking deeper questions like, what's the risk to reward? Is the reward worth distracting my focus and pulling away what I'm trying to do? Bottom line is, does it integrate with what I'm already doing? If the answer is no, 98% of the time, it's just an immediate no without thought. If I'm truly committed to doing what I'm doing right now, why would I even consider something else? If I go through life and every decision I make is because someone tells me, or I have some fucking fancy feeling in my gut that I could make $1 zillion off X, you will end up Nowhere. Zero. That's a guarantee to each and every one of you on this call or anybody listening afterwards. I promise you, if that is your operating principle, that, oh, well, I can make more money doing this, and bam, you jump onto the next thing, you're fucked. You're screwed. I'm always deliberate in my actions. When I feel the need to rush, I ask myself, do I so undervalue my ability to make an impact that I feel compelled to rush and create an extra 5 minutes? Also, directly relates to right now, today. Okay? Very important. Never take actions based on guilt, shame, or need to make right the past. You can't cheat time, guys. I've told you this before. Do you think I wanted to come today and say, hey, week one, let's talk about rituals and principles? No. My gut's like, you got to show them something shiny. You got to wow them. Let's bring in this person and wow them. And, I need to make up. That's all bullshit. What is week one supposed to be? What am I supposed to be teaching? What am I going to be cheating them or the next person if I don't go over this material, right? If you make decisions out of guilt, shame, or the need to make right, I promise you're going to be fucked because you can't cheat time. You can't do it. You can't do it. So the bottom line, so be deliberate in your actions, slow down, get out of your feelings, right? Get out of your feels, think rational, think pragmatic, do the right thing. That's all you can do. Can't do anything else. By the way, is this stuff, am I just speaking gibberish? Is this stuff valuable to you guys? Hope you're finding some valuable in it. Just let me know in the chat that I'm not just wasting my time here, that you guys are enjoying it on some level and that it's valuable on some level. I would appreciate it.
I am.
All right.
The making decisions thing, I'm actually finding that quite useful because sitting down, looking at the points you have on screen and then trying to figure out where I've maybe veered off course a little bit. I didn't consider how that would affect me when I made that decision at the time, if that makes sense.
Assuming the smiley face banana is a good thing. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks, Linda. Yeah, Van, it is key. Yeah, Colette, the principles, and that's another thing, guys, is we always see the best books I read last year. One of the things I encourage you guys to do, so I've read this particular document thousands of times. I've read principles or listened to it about 7 times now. If you guys find a book that really resonates, that just is, you think it's like a fucking cornerstone piece of content, reread. We don't retain enough. So instead of reading the next book, how about reading the one that's really life-changing again and getting something more from it, ingraining it, instilling it, making it a part of who you are, right? Takeaway selling, something concept I got from I think Dan Kennedy. It's a life philosophy for millionaires. You either go through life trying to push yourself onto others or you attract others to you. It's the hardest thing to do though, but here's the bottom line. If you are a yes person to everything, if someone comes to you, I highly recommend, first thing you do is say no. Or at the very least, hey, Van, I was thinking about, look, I'm needing some coaching in a certain area. Could we do it? No, I can't. I don't know. I mean, I got to be honest. I'm got a lot of shit on my plate right now. I'm not sure that I can do it. I just, I don't think I can do it right now. I'm telling you, that's way more attractive than, sure, let's talk numbers, right? Takeaway selling is the single best way to sell possible. You provide massive value. When people want you, you take away. What you end up doing is you take people, you skew the numbers. If you just immediately jump into a sale, you're going to sell a certain percentage. You'll double that number if when someone comes to you, I'm not talking about $49 sales, okay? I'm talking about higher level consulting, etc. Pull away, even if your schedule isn't full, right? You don't have to lie. You don't have to say, look, I got 50 people on my schedule. You could say I'm busy. Maybe you're busy watching Netflix. They don't know that. You don't have to tell them that. That's not misleading. It's not, if that's unethical to you, it's unethical. I mean, we talk about, I'm okay with it. You might not be, right? I'm okay saying I'm busy. Again, Busy might be Netflix and billions. I don't fucking know. Right? I don't know. You must be you must only care about results and nothing else matters. Feel good results don't pay the bills. You have to know where you are, what the results should look like, and measure the outcome. It's so fucking big. I mean, here's what most people do. Hey Joe, tell me what's working. Well, I'm kicking ass. All right. How do you know? I'm making 200,000 a year. From what? Well, I do these 10 things. I make 200,000 a year. Find me that person. I'll show you the person that's out of business within 5 to 10 years, or at the very least, they're struggling like a motherfucker. Okay? What's working? Why is it working? Most people have no fucking clue. They're making a shitload of money, but they don't have any idea why. I don't know. I'm doing these 20 things. I've told you guys the story. I'll repeat it here. I go in, end up buying a garage door company with just the profits of cutting one thing off. How? What do? We find out the company's spending $1 million a year on PPC, getting completely robbed, and almost none of their business was coming from it. They had no clue. Not a fucking clue at all. No idea. They just knew we're making millions. What do we care? We're spending on these 10 things. Leads come in. We make money. That's all they knew. A positive pragmatist is positive in his ability to get a positive outcome. This is one of the biggest things I ever got from Dan Kennedy. Accurate thinking, or I should say it's from Napoleon Hill. Dan uses it a lot. Accurate thinking is a definitive key to being successful. You need to have accurate and truthful appraisal of your world and what's going on within and around you. This is about living in, again, another top shelf book, top 10 book, okay? Maybe top 5, I'd say. Action, Robert Ringer. If you haven't read it, read it. It's that fucking good. It's so fucking good. It's like a reread. It's so good. Action, Robert Ringer. Don't live in delusion. Delusion is I'm living out there. You need to have an accurate and truthful appraisal of where you're at, what's working, what has worked. That way you can put together accurate, pragmatic systems and things and goals, etc., based on reality. Not, I just read a book about, Elon Musk, the billionaire, and I want to do what Elon does because, I'm going to be a billionaire. This is fucking hilarious to me. Literally, it's absolutely fucking hilarious. No, problem is there's not a lot of information out there about what Elon did when he had to, when he was in a garage and he was struggling, he had no money. All right, that's what you need to know. Not, it's easy to do a lot of shit when you got, $30 billion in the bank. A lot easy. It's a hell of a lot easy to do things when everybody's cooking your meals every day. When everybody's doing this, where he's waiting on you hand and foot. It's context. So accurate thinking, contextual thinking, deliberate, accurate, contextual thinking will get you way farther than some delusion out there thought process. Always ask the question, what would happen if you lost your main way of selling? All the poor fucks out there, oh, Facebook don't work. They're mean to me. Having eggs in one basket, probably the most important single question you can ask in business and life. But again, if you don't consistently ask it, you'll never know. Because in the end, it's your own fault. I don't feel sorry for anybody that's having a problem with Facebook. Nobody, zero. I sure in the fuck don't think Facebook is bad. Why the fuck are they bad? They're just doing what they do. I think any amount of time you spend worried about that, you're better off asking yourself the question, what would happen if I lost all my money because Facebook no longer worked for me? Got to have something on the back burner, something else, something that, my foundation that will work. What's that second, third pillar I can have? I also don't think you need to have 20 pillars. But you should at least have 2 or 3, right, that are consistently working. Something I recently learned. So my buddy, Bill Perkins, if you guys don't know who he is a commodities trader. Simple, fucking awesome guy. Should check him out. The bottom line, though, is that he went through a life-changing program for him, and something called the Choice Center in Las Vegas, and he's 48 years old. One time was almost a billionaire, lost about half of that playing poker, being dumb. Had, I don't know, $400 million left. And he basically, what he did is he realized at the end of it that, our most valuable currency is not money, it's experiences. That at the end of, the day, the experiences, when we sit back, like, I want you to think about, I don't know if any of you guys, like, I get with my old buddies in high school. We talk about, the fights we used to get in and the fucking hilarious stories when we got drunk, and, we talk about the double ski bob knobber, which is a fucking crazy story, but it was sexual, involving a girl, double ski bob knobber. That's all I'm going to tell you. But, we talk about that and we laugh our fucking ass off. And even she does, by the way. I'd feel bad if she didn't. I wouldn't talk about it as much, but happen to know who she is. And the point is, when we look back, it's all experiences, all those little things, that we get together, we do that, and we don't think about it. We're in the moment, and we compile all this money, like Bill did. And he was fucking miserable. So what he did when he got out of this experience is he reverse engineered how much money, how long he thought he would live, okay? And he's reverse engineered basically how much money he can spend every year to be at zero when he reaches that certain date. He wants to spend all of his money and create as many experiences as possible. He bought a yacht, and he's just traveling the world with his lady and his kids, and that's all they do. It's just all about experience. He still trades, but not as much, and he expects to be broke at a certain age, and he's okay with it. And I'm telling you, I learned a lot from just listening to him talk about it. So the most valuable currency you have is not money, it's experience. Something I just recently.
Sorry
Yep.
to cut in there, just to help out on the Bill Perkins thing. There's quite a few videos on YouTube of it. On one of my YouTube exploratory days, I came across quite a bit. That's something that I've actually been looking into. I'm not anywhere near that rich, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
Experiences of where
I don't even,
everything else.
has he talked about it publicly? I don't, has he
Um,
talked
in
talk
these
about
videos
that?
I watched, he talked about that. He covered that, but he didn't go into deep detail about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just didn't know he'd talked much publicly about it, but um, yeah, I mean, share them. I would love to. I would like to listen to them as well. I just didn't. I didn't know they were out there.
I'll see if I can find him and I'll put him
Yeah.
in the group.
So be aggressive, meaning quick, decisive, massive action, ruthless. Ultimately, if you believe in something, if you have principles, you got values. Again, that's kind of the antithesis. Quick, decisive. You might be thinking, well, hey, Dex, that's the opposite of what you were talking about. It's not. It's a time frame. Like, it doesn't mean like instant. It doesn't mean like I boom, I make a decision. It's not. There's some things you want to be fucking quick at. You don't want to spend, like, I do stupid shit that pisses me off. Like, I'll spend sometimes, because of my fucking frugal mindset, will get in the way, and I'll spend way too many hours trying to find the perfect. Like, I recently did it with sound systems for computers for people in the office, and it's fucking, there's just, those are things that just should be, outsourced, or things that I, shouldn't care too much about the extra $50. But quick, massive action, being ruthless. Ruthless to me simply means that you can't care about everybody's feelings all the time. You got to be conscious, but you have to understand that you're going to hurt some people's feelings just by being you. It's just part of the deal. Strive for simplicity. Would eliminating a system or saying no save time, energy, or money? I believe that the less is more. Always seek to do more with less. I mean, it's pretty simple. Important to keep score on everything possible. Why play a game you don't know the score of? Measurement automatically improves performance. It allows you to make adjustments. You get to a goal by zigging and zagging, not through a straight line. Personal performance and review should be weekly, if not daily or hourly. Monitor everything all the time. Knowing your numbers, have today's statistics and numbers, not yesterday's or last week's. Be very tough on yourself. If you're not, it all seems to get away from you. Otherwise, you're making bad decisions Without good information, you must be very disciplined. Bottom line, the more data you have, the more successful you're going to be. You got to know the score. I mean, if you're just floating through life and if you don't know, like I talked about a minute ago about people not having a fucking clue what's working, why is it? How is it? Not it's going to work because Ty Lopez did it and it's going to work, or Grant did it, or Dex did it, or Dan did it and it's going to work. No, I mean, gonna doesn't pay the bills. They did it, doesn't pay the bills. Is it working? Rationally, look at it, deliberately sit down, take the extra time, know your fucking numbers. If you haven't offended somebody by noon, you're not doing your job. It's been around forever. I don't know where it came from. I've heard it so many times from different people. I'm a huge believer in it, though. I just think you're too much of a pansy. Excuse my language. I'd use the word pussy. You're, you just, how do you ever expect to be somebody or something to your market if you're not pissing people off? That means you're going around caressing everybody's fucking balls every day. That's a shitty way to live fucking life. I refuse to live that way. And thankfully I've been that way most of my life. You're going to fuck up. You're going to do, you move on. You got to offend people because A, you're human, and B, you have opinion, and you state that opinion, and you take it a step further, and you're an advocate for your audience. And if that means attacking, like most people would never show those 2 fucking videos of Grant Cardone in the beginning. Oh, because he's big, mighty Grant. Fuck him. Don't change your fucking story every 2 videos, and I won't put it up there. Do I respect him and his marketing? Yes. Do I respect what he's done? Yes. Do I think the event he recently did was amazing from a production standpoint? Yes. Do I think you can learn a lot about closing sales and all that stuff from him? Yes. But do I think he's wrong in this one particular area and it's a contributing factor that nobody wants to talk about in the current state of affairs? Yes. Does it make me wrong? No. If you haven't offended somebody by noon, you're not doing your job. When I truly believe in something, I don't quit. I have pig-headed discipline, determination. I recognize the value of consistency and commitment and grit to accomplishing challenging goals. It comes with wisdom, guys. If you stick through it enough things, enough times, you just don't quit. You reevaluate, you move on. I know it's fucking simple and simplistic, but in the end, that principle, it don't mean shit unless you actually start sticking to something long enough to see that, generally speaking, here's my time frame for big things, like something that's great. 3 to 6 years. Okay. Generally takes 3 to 6 years, where the first 2 to 3 years is fuck ups. The first 2 to 3 years you almost go broke probably maybe 4 to 7 times in that period where you just want to quit or you're almost broke, whatever the case is, but you stick to it. You stick to it. You stick to it. You stick to it. And over time, my experience has told me it takes about 3 to 6 years to develop something that's great. That's generally what it takes. Some will tell you can do what? In a week, in 2 weeks, in a month. No, it doesn't. It doesn't happen. Dan Kennedy, there's ladder climbers and leapers. This is big. Okay. Superstars, renegades are all about self-certification. I mean, they don't care that they don't have the appropriate credentials. Most people are looking for the latter is. Renegades create their own way. Delora, sex therapist, right? It's all about something unique and different. Most people would never do what Delora does. Number one, it's a taboo area. It's an uncomfortable area to be in. But to do it without a credential of I'm Dr. Delora, I'm certified therapist Delora, I'm this, without that, most people would never consider doing it because they think that they have to have some kind of certification that the public will believe in. The only certification you ever need is certainty in who you are and good intention. If you have those 2 things, more certainty than anybody else at what you do will help people, which Delora has, and good intention. If you merit, now you can have bad intention too. I'm just saying you probably should have good intention, right? But if you marry those 2 things together, way more powerful than any fucking certificate you can hang on a wall. I promise you. Responsibility equals control, and control equals responsibility. Another Dan Kennedy thing. Only to the degree that you accept responsibility of something will you have any control over it. Figure out how to, you can assert control over what is not working. Control means you now have responsibility to make it happen. You must take responsibility for all problems and challenges. Otherwise, you have no control over anything. It's always something else. It didn't do well versus I screwed it up, or business isn't going well versus I haven't figured out how to fix it. These are the things that have been the verses of Renegade Attitudes, directly from Dan's Renegade program. I mean, to me, it's just comments. It's ultimately, what does it mean? It just means that in the end, it's all my fault. Doesn't matter what Dan did or Tag did or Joe did or Sally did. If I am taking responsibility as a leader, it's all my fault. Nothing else matters. Nothing else. It's all my fault. It's nobody else's fault. Those are circumstances that help deliver to it, but in the end, it's my responsibility to deal with those circumstances. Okay? Responsibility equals control, and control equals responsibility. In other words, you can only have responsibility, okay, if you take control. And you can only have control if you accept responsibility. I'm a leader. I don't manage problems. I work on system creation. So the bottom line is, if you're constantly managing problems every day, you need to look at the problems in the sense of, how do I make sure that that doesn't happen again? So if I let this slip, what happened today, the problem of why we're late is because 30 minutes in the beginning that shouldn't have happened because of my fucking microphone. If I'm a victim and I don't solve that, if I don't put something in place to solve it, that's on me, right? You need to work on system creation, not problem solving consistently. If you're going to let your kids live next door to a mental toxic waste dump, you should expect to see yourself and your children with the green face in the mirror. This applies to everything in life. I mean, just association. That's all it's saying. Story I pulled from either Jay or Dan, I'm pretty certain of, right? So I recognize the importance of being well rested, to good decision making and quality of work. If I'm tired, I get rest. I get rest and then attack the problem when I'm fresh. Bottom line, something I caught on entirely too late in life. Can't imagine the bad decisions I made on 2 hours of sleep. But I finally realized it. It's just so fucking important. So important to be recognized, rested, sleep. Recognize that what I am today, if I don't do it now, I won't do it ever. That I am what I do today. Every action is not an event, but laying down of a new neural pathway for habit creation. So your future, I mean, ultimately what that's saying is what? I am what I do today. That's it. What I do today, what I do tomorrow, the next day, it's day by day. I talk about process versus goals. Incorporating the goals into a process system so that you're just doing stuff, do, right? Versus think about doing. I realize that the wisdom and passion are the results of experience. They're acquired by people who do the work day in and day out. So wisdom and passion, two things. Number one, wisdom can only come from doing something, and I respect more people that do than people that just talk about it. Passion, that whole myth. I think you become passionate about what you do and you get good at. I'm not saying you can be passionate about everything, but I'm saying you'd be surprised what the fuck you think you hate can actually become a passion if you get good at it. I believe that we get all we want out of life by suspending my ego and taking a no excuse approach to achieving my goals with open-mindedness, determination, and courage, and by relying on the help of others who are strong where I am weak. Bottom line, what's that saying? You got to be open to criticism. You got to be open to feedback. You got to suspend your ego. You can't want to attack just because people are giving you feedback. In the end, it's other people. They're going to give you what you want. If you can't do that, you're kind of fucked. Okay, you're kind of screwed. I invest in my self-perception, self-awareness, and don't emotionally invest in how others perceive me or my work, good or bad. Self-awareness, emotional intelligence, EQ, whatever you want to call it, is where you guys should be investing your personal development time. digging deep. Not these superficial rah-rah programs. Programs that actually help you work on yourself, give you better operating systems. You want to be self-aware, right? Because if you're not self-aware, you're constantly going to be pulled by the perception of market, and it's a problem. I believe in the power of radical focus. I say no to 99 out of 100 great opportunities. I find it funny now. I see it all over the place. I see books being written about it. Dan will tell you is the first thing I ever said to him. Anybody that's ever talked to me, it'll be the first thing that comes out of my mouth in one of our first few conversations, and I repeat it over and over and over again. You got to say no all the time. If you don't, but the only way you can say no is if you have values and principles like we're talking about today. If you have a self, right, a self-built operating system. If you don't have that, how can you ever say no? Think like an investor. Create plans that protect downsides and define deadlines. Don't internalize losses. Value correct decisions over right decisions. So let me give you a really good example there. A really good example would be that you plan to go into something and do it and you're losing money. Okay? So value and correct decisions over right decisions. So you may think a right decision is to continue on with that, even though all the data, you're so emotionally invested, you'll just drive yourself into a fucking ground. You're like, I'm gonna keep working Facebook until it works because everybody else makes it work. I got to be able to do it. You lose money, you lose money, you lose money, you lose money, you're out of business. When in reality, if you do what I talked about, small, right, tasks, manage the risks, make a correct decision based on data, right, like an investor would. Always align everything with my innate nature. Give you one example of that: leadership. One time for like 2 years, I decided some book or something, I got swayed into believing that I needed to be Mother Teresa. I've always been gruff. I've always been tough. I've always been an asshole to some extent. I've always been, Bill Parcells, Lombardi. I'm not John Gooden. I got that part of me. But my leadership strength derives differently than other people. Doesn't make those other people different. Here's what's wrong is when people try to be tough, right? Gruff, mean, stern, certain from this, right? When they're not, right? That'd be like Tag trying to be a fucking asshole and mean and just, like just full of energy just because someone told him he needed to. It's not Tag. Tag's like Zen, right? Tag's gonna love you to death. He's gonna do it different than me because it's the same fucking result. The thing is, align your innate nature with the outcome, what you're trying to do. Don't get tricked into believing there's one way. What is your innate? I'm not saying you can't change. I'm just saying your innate nature, align with it. Always think about second and third order consequences. We already talked about that. Bad outcomes are always my fucking fault. That's big. Okay. Bottom line, it doesn't matter. You can't, it doesn't, even if it's technically 100% their fault, what can I do to make sure it's not their fault next time? Where's my fault in this? It's my fault. Well, it doesn't matter what it is. If your thing is it's their fault, they wronged me, they did this, they did that. What did I do? How did I enable this? What can I do to make sure it doesn't happen anymore? Right? It's my fault, because if you don't have that belief, you'll never look at that stuff. You'll always be a victim. All right, look, guys, it's 11:45. We are 45 minutes past. We're 2 hours and 45 minutes in. Here's what I want to do. Our next session's supposed to start at 1 o'clock, so 9 o'clock UK time. What I would like to do is, what's quotable, by the way, Leah? What part? I didn't miss it. That's funny. Daniel, I'd never listened to Bill's. I'll have to watch that. It's probably good. I like Joey. Joey's a really good kid. Vin. So what? Okay, thanks, Leah. So here's the bottom line. That's session 1. I encourage you guys, create a ritual. I can't do it for you. Nor am I ever going to sit here and say, do mine. Remember, there isn't a perfect ritual. Matter of fact, if yours mirrors mine or anybody else's, I can assure you it probably won't work. Find something that'll work for you. Just start something simple. Look at those building blocks. Plug them into your calendar, the 4 building blocks. Look at these principles, okay? And the other ones I'll send you, but I don't want to overpower it. Just begin to build. And every time you're reading, like something, if it resonates on a deep level, like fuck, that's me. That's what that's like fucking, like only those ones. Begin to put them. You should get maybe 1 or 2 out of every book, unless it's like a Ray D where it's every fucking, like it's built on principles. But find those 1 or 2 every book and begin to add to this list over time. Have your own personal operating system. Make this the most important thing. And I'll end by asking you guys this one question. If you guys all come up with your own personal thing and it's, you get your own 100 of these, wouldn't that be more valuable to read once a week than some bullshit blog post and instill into your day-to-day life? I mean, honestly, wouldn't that be more valuable? So whether you say yes or no, I'm going to tell you this. I can tell you from experience it is. So I hope this was valuable to you guys. Get your principles, get your daily ritual. We're going to talk about values and goals to wrap up the U part at 1:30. Tay, can we move that to 1:30? Is that fine? Can you just change the time in the registration, or is that not possible?
I can change it.
Okay. So 1:30 Pacific, I'll be back. 1:30 Pacific. So Tag, just remind everybody in the chat. Thank you guys for hanging in there. Let's wrap this up this afternoon. I'll see you guys in an hour and 40. What the fuck is it? I don't know. An hour and 15 minutes.
About that.
Okay, yeah, Leah. Hey, I'm glad you're here too. We'll have the recording up, and we're actually gonna. I'll have Take post the raw one, but this is gonna be edited because it'll. There's gonna be. You guys will hear other voices. There's gonna be 2 groups, and we're gonna pull the best of, and we're gonna create what it's really for us, like internal. We're trying to create a product here, but I will get both of those posted up, and I will see you guys in an hour 45 minutes. 1 hour 45 minutes. I hope as many of you that can make it will make it. Tag, just put a reminder in here, and I'll talk to you guys soon. All right.
All right, have a good one, everyone.
See you in a while, Tag. Bye.
Bye.